I woke up feeling a presence standing beside my bed, jolting me out of sleep. It was my son, and it was 2:38 a.m. "Dad, there's something in my closet. I'm scared." My wife rolled over to the sound of his voice. "Huh? What's wrong, honey?" she said, half asleep. "Closet monster, apparently," I said. "Oh, that's new," my wife said. "Come here, honey. Your dad will check it out. Come sit on the bed next to Mommy." I got up from the bed slowly and stretched. My son slid under the covers next to my wife, and I saw her drifting back to sleep. I said to her, "Sure you don't want to come along? It may take two of us to take this thing down." "Nah, you got this, babe. I believe in you," she said with a sly smile. "And if you don't make it back, well, you were a pretty good husband." I laughed and headed out of the room. My son's room was upstairs on the opposite side of the house. So, up the stairs I went and made my way closer. The door to his room was wide open, but the closet doors, which you could see from the hallway, were closed. About 5 feet out in the hallway, I actually started to hear something from the closet. An intermittent hum. I slowed my pace a little at hearing it. My first thought was, perhaps a tablet or other device under a pile of clothes, playing some loud music over and over. Whether it was or not, I got a lot more cautious and picked up a bat that was laying beside my son's dresser. With a bat in hand, after a deep breath to calm down, I grabbed the knob and turned it. As the door opened, I saw that was at least correct about the noise coming from under the clothes. A huge pile was stacked in the back corner and the noise much louder with the door open. The clothes were shifting slightly as the noise rang out. With the door open, I could tell it was a human voice, a child. I gripped the bat with white knuckle force and I started pulling the clothes away from the pile, despite the fear and sweat bursting out of me. Then I saw the source. But what? Impossible. It was my son, tied up with a gag in his mouth. Tears streamed down his face. His face was beet red. I ripped the gag away. He took a deep breath in then, screamed, "It wants Mom." I was on my way to a parent-teacher interview with my son Billy's teacher when I ran into the young boy. He was sitting on a chair on the porch of an old white bungalow just half a block from the school. He waved at me and said, "Hello, Mrs. Danher." I waved back, although I didn't recognize him. He said, "I'm friends with Billy." I hesitated because I had not met this boy before, and we live in a fairly small town. I said, "Well, it's nice to meet you. What did you say your name was?" "I'm Nicholas. Nicholas Martins. Billy and I are in the same class." "Well, Nick, I hate to rush, but I'm just on my way to meet with your teacher, Mr. Atkinson." "Okay, it was nice to meet you." "It was nice to meet you too, Nick. Tell Billy I'll be in the basement." That last thing struck me as an old thing to say, but I imagined my son would know what it meant. I was running late. When I got there, my husband and Mr. Atkinson were already talking. My husband grew up in this town, and Mr. Atkinson, who was close to retirement, had worked at the school when he went there. "Sorry, I'm late," I said as I kissed on my husband's cheek and took a chair next to him. "Oh, no worries," said Mr. Atkinson. "William and I were just reminiscing." My husband smiled. "I'm afraid, Nikki and I used to give Mr. Atkinson a hard time when we were younger." I laughed. "That's weird. I just met one of Billy's friends down the street. His name is Nick as well, Nick Martins." A disturbing silence fell over my husband and Mr. Atkinson as they both stared intently at me. "You met a boy named Nicholas Martins?" my husband asked. "Yeah," I said hesitantly. "Did he say anything?" asked Mr. Atkinson slowly. "Not really," I said. "I was in a bit of rush. He just told me to tell Billy that he'll be in the basement." "Where did you run into him?" asked my husband. "He was outside the old white bungalow, just down the street." My husband turned and he and Mr. Atkinson stared at each other. "What's going on?" I asked, exasperated. "Who is Nicholas?" My husband kept his eyes on Mr. Atkinson. "Nick Martins was my best friend," he told me, "up until he disappeared in the 3rd grade." A long silence followed until my husband finally spoke again. "Mr. Atkinson, what are we going to find in your basement?"